Roy Rogers began his life far from the bright lights that would one day carry his name across America. Yet even in those early years there was something steady and quietly luminous about him. People saw it long before he ever stepped in front of a camera. There was a gentleness in the way he carried hardship, a calm courage shaped by poverty, family loyalty, and the long roads his parents traveled in search of work. Long before he became a symbol of decency, he was simply a boy learning to hold on to hope. As he grew into the man the world would come to know, that same quiet goodness followed him. Fans felt it through his films, through his radio voice, and through the way he stood beside his beloved horse Trigger, like a friend rather than a prop. They sensed a sincerity that did not need to be performed. It lived in him. And in the decades after his rise to fame, something remarkable happened. People wondered if the hero they adored on screen was truly the man he was at home. Was the king of the Cowboys really everything he appeared to be? Roy Rogers entered the world in Cincinnati, Ohio in the year 1911 as Leonard Franklin Sly, a name rooted in ordinary soil long before America ever crowned him its cowboy king. His childhood unfolded in a home where worries came faster than paychecks, and where every decision a family made was shaped by the uncertainty of the times. When the Great Depression tightened its hold, the Sly family did what countless others were forced to do. They packed their hopes into the back of a truck and made their way toward California, chasing work, daylight, and the kind of second chance that could keep a family together. Along dusty roads and migrant camps, young Leonard learned what it meant to be resilient, to be grateful, and to hold close the people who walked beside him. Music was his earliest refuge. Long before cameras discovered him, he found comfort in the gentle strum of a guitar and the bright voice of a mandolin. In the evenings when work was scarce and spirits were low, he played for his parents and siblings, easing burdens the way only a young dreamer could. Those early songs were not perfect, but they were honest, and that honesty would one day become the heart of his public identity. Eventually he began performing with his cousin, as the Sly Brothers, traveling from place to place, accepting whatever opportunities came their way. These were small jobs, humble stages, but they shaped the foundation of a man who would never forget where he started. California became a turning point. Amid the labor camps and long hours, Leonard found his way into a community of musicians who shared the same hunger to create something lasting. Out of these friendships came one of the most influential groups in country music history, the Sons of the Pioneers. Their harmonies carried the sound of open skies and distant horizons, and audiences felt something familiar in the way their voices blended. Songs like Tumbling Tumbleweeds drifted across America with a gentleness that soothed a weary nation. The group's rising popularity surprised them, but to Leonard it felt like a quiet validation. After years of scraping his way forward, his voice was finally being heard. What made his early career extraordinary was not fame or fortune, which were still far from reach, but the character forming behind the scenes. He was still Leonard Sly, a young man who helped support his parents, who respected every musician he met, and who treated success as a gift rather than a guarantee. Those who worked beside him often remembered his modesty, the way he listened more than he spoke, and how he always tried to lift the spirits of the people around him. Even then there was something deeply grounded in him, a sincerity that would one day make audiences believe in his screen heroes, because they sensed the same goodness existed off-camera. Yet the most defining part of these early years was the quiet transformation happening within him. Each hardship, each small triumph, each moment of doubt, pushed him closer to the path that would eventually lead him to Hollywood. What he did not know then was that his blend of humility, musical talent, and resilient spirit would soon set him apart from others chasing the same dream. Leonard was becoming Roy Rogers, not through fame but through the steady shaping of his heart. It was a journey built not on luck, but on the unshakable values that carried him from Ohio to California, and through the most trying years of his youth. When Leonard Sly stepped into the world of Hollywood, The transformation into Roy Rogers did not happen overnight. It unfolded with the same quiet steadiness that had carried him through hardship and music halls. What set him apart was not a hunger for attention, but a natural ease before the camera. Directors noticed the warmth in his voice, the sincerity in his eyes, and the way he moved with an instinctive gentleness that fit the stories of courage and honor audiences longed to see. As the film studios searched for a new singing cowboy to stand alongside the rising demand for Western heroes, Roy Rogers emerged as the man who could embody that spirit without forcing it. By the early 1940s, he was cast in leading roles that placed him beside his beloved horse Trigger, a partner who soon became as iconic as the actor himself. Their bond on screen felt real because it was built on trust. Roy handled Trigger with respect, patience, and care, turning their performances into something more than staged entertainment. Children watched him ride across wide-open plains, always steady in his posture, always guided by an unshakable moral compass. To families across the country, he became the ideal of a hero who protected the innocent and faced danger with calm certainty. His popularity rose quickly. Audiences filled theaters to see him in films where hope triumphed and justice held firm. In an era marked by war and uncertainty, there was comfort in a cowboy who never wavered. Roy's voice carried this same reassurance. When he sang, there was clarity in every note, a simplicity that reminded listeners of wide skies and familiar comforts. As his film career expanded, his music followed, strengthening the connection he built with his fans. During this time, another remarkable chapter of his life began. In the mid-1940s, he met the woman who would stand with him for the rest of his life, Dale Evans. Together they created a partnership that extended from the screen to the stage and eventually to the homes of millions. Their chemistry was not manufactured. It came from shared values, shared faith, and the shared responsibility of raising children, including many they chose to adopt. Audiences sensed this authenticity, and it deepened their affection for the couple who seemed to embody the family ideals so many held dear. As television began transforming American entertainment, Roy adapted with a natural ease. The Roy Rogers Show carried the gentle heroism of his earlier films into living rooms across the nation. From the year 1951 to 1957, families gathered each week to watch him ride with Trigger and stand alongside Dale as they solved problems with kindness and steady resolve. His radio program continued this connection, giving fans a chance to hear his familiar voice guide them through stories that were comforting in their simplicity and strengthened by his musical roots. By the time his film and television career reached its height, Roy Rogers had become more than an entertainer. He was a symbol of reliability in a rapidly changing world. His success never altered the humility formed in those early years. Colleagues often spoke of his graciousness, his calm presence on set, and his willingness to treat every member of the crew with respect. He carried his fame with gentleness, earning admiration not through grand gestures, but through consistent decency. This period of stardom did not erase the boy who once traveled dusty roads with his family in search of work. Instead, it shaped a man who understood how precious opportunity could be. Roy Rogers built a career rooted in hard work, musical talent, and a steady moral center, becoming the king of the Cowboys not by title alone, but through the unwavering character he brought into every role he played. There was a turning point in Roy Rogers' life, when fame no longer felt like the destination he once imagined, but rather a responsibility he carried with quiet determination. By the middle of the 1940s, he had become the most recognized cowboy in America. His face appeared on theater screens, in magazines, on lunch pails, and in the dreams of children who believed that goodness always arrived on horseback. Yet behind that polished image was a man learning, sometimes painfully, that living up to a legend required strength that went far beyond performance. His marriage to Dale Evans deepened that understanding. They were already beloved figures separately, But together they became something even more enduring. Their union was not built on glamour, but on shared values, shared work, and shared grief. Their daughter Robin, born in 1950, brought a love so profound it reshaped their sense of purpose. Her loss 2 years later carved a scar that remained visible in Roy's eyes for the rest of his life. He spoke about her briefly in interviews, carefully, gently, with a kind of reverence that made even the toughest cowboys fall silent. That heartbreak changed him. It grounded him. It humbled him. It taught him that the world's affection could not protect a family from sorrow. Still, Roy continued to work, not as an escape, but as a continuation of the promise he had always made to his audience. He believed in giving families a safe place to dream. He believed in showing children that kindness was not a weakness, and that courage could be quiet. Every film he made in the 1950s carried that soft moral backbone. Every television appearance reminded viewers that integrity could still be found in the public eye. At home, life was both fuller and more fragile. Roy and Dale adopted several children, each one adding new layers of joy and responsibility. Their household became a mosaic of personalities, memories, and second chances. Roy, who had grown up learning to work hard for every opportunity, understood how transformative stability could be. He dedicated himself to fatherhood with the same steady devotion he carried into the saddle. He attended school functions when he could, helped with chores when filming allowed, and insisted that every child, adopted or biological, was loved without measure. The 1960s brought changes to entertainment, and Roy navigated them with the quiet dignity that defined him. Westerns were fading, replaced by new genres, new heroes, and new expectations. Yet Roy never resented it. He believed every generation needed its own dreams, its own stories. He continued to appear at fairs, charity events, and gatherings long after the cameras slowed. Fans recall that he greeted each person, as though they were the reason he had succeeded. In many ways they were. Through it all, Dale remained the voice of reassurance beside him. Their faith and their shared devotion to helping children in need became central to their later years. Roy participated in countless charitable efforts, focusing especially on vulnerable youth, honoring Robin's memory with every act of kindness. As time passed, the world around him modernized, but Roy's essence did not. He remained sturdy, humble, and quietly grateful. He loved the simple things the most: the saddle that had shaped his career, the ranch that grounded him, the family that completed him. His daughter Cheryl later expressed that the greatest truth about Roy Rogers was not found in his films or his fame, but in the sincerity that shaped every corner of his life. And it was that sincerity, she would finally confirm, that fans had always sensed. Time has a way of softening the edges of a legacy, but for Roy Rogers, the passing years only sharpened what mattered most. As he moved into the later chapters of his life, he became less focused on the image that had made him famous and far more devoted to the purpose that had carried him through decades of public attention. Roy had always been grateful for the applause, yet he never believed it defined him. What defined him was the quiet work no one saw, the kindness he offered without cameras, and the promises he kept long after the spotlight had dimmed. The ranch became his refuge. It was the place where he could breathe slowly, walk among the horses he adored, and remember the boy he once was. He fed the animals himself when he could, taking comfort in the familiar rhythm of barns, stalls, and open fields. Visitors often recalled that Roy was most at peace when he was tending to his horses, speaking to them in a soft voice, the same gentle tone he had used throughout his life. He believed animals understood sincerity, and he offered it freely. Dale remained his anchor, her strength woven into every decision they made together. Their marriage weathered triumphs and losses, with a steadiness that inspired those who knew them. They continued their work with children, expanding their outreach each year. Hospitals, homes for displaced youth, and charitable foundations welcomed them with open arms. Roy approached each visit with humility, reminding volunteers that generosity was not measured by the size of a donation but by the willingness to show up. As their children grew into adulthood, the Rogers household changed shape but never lost its sense of unity. Family gatherings were filled with stories, laughter, and memories that stretched back across decades of shared experience. Roy enjoyed these moments more than any public honor. He held conversations slowly, with intention, giving each person the full weight of his attention. He had learned long ago that the most valuable thing a father could offer was presence. The 1980s brought a wave of nostalgia for the golden era of Western stars. Roy appeared at special events with gratitude, signing autographs with the same care he had shown in his earliest days. Fans often told him that he had shaped their childhoods, that he had taught them about courage and fairness, and that he had been a guiding figure in their most uncertain years. Roy listened with humility, insisting that he had simply done his job. Yet those who stood before him felt otherwise. They sensed that his goodness had been genuine, not crafted for a screen but rooted in the man himself. When Dale passed away in 2001, Roy's world grew quieter. He carried her memory with a tenderness that could be felt even in the smallest gestures. He spoke about her with a gentle pride, honoring the life they had built and the causes they had devoted themselves to. His faith sustained him through the ache of loss, allowing him to continue the work they had begun together. In those final years, Roy became a figure of reflection. He understood the fragility of time and the blessings he had been given. Fans who visited him in those days often said that his kindness had deepened, as though he wanted to leave behind every ounce of warmth he still carried. He never saw himself as extraordinary, but he felt extraordinary gratitude for the life he had lived. And when his daughter Cheryl was asked about her father's legacy, she spoke with a clarity that echoed the truth generations of fans had always whispered. She said that the Roy Rogers the world admired was the same Roy Rogers they knew at home, kind-hearted, humble, steadfast, and real. It was the confirmation so many had felt in their hearts for a lifetime, finally spoken aloud. Roy Rogers left behind more than a collection of films, songs, and memories. He left a living example of what it meant to move through the world with sincerity, gentleness, and unwavering integrity. His life carried moments of triumph and moments of heartbreak, yet he met each chapter with the same quiet courage that defined his on-screen heroes. In the end, the greatest truth about Roy was not the legend built around him, but the man who lived beneath the hat and the saddle. When Cheryl finally spoke about her father's legacy, she did not reveal a secret or a surprising twist. Instead, she confirmed what millions had known all along. Roy Rogers was exactly who he appeared to be, steadfast in his values, tender in his heart, and genuine in every room he entered. His legacy endures because it was real, shaped not by fame but by kindness, family, and the unshakable belief that goodness matters. For more emotional stories, check out this video.